Donald Trump just dropped a move no one saw coming, not a warning, not a negotiation, an ultimatum. He basically told Canada, do what we want or face serious economic pain. And here's the twist. Mark Carney didn't back down, not even a little. What happened over the next 72 hours? It could change everything between these two countries. This isn't just about tariffs. This is about power, about trust, about whether the US still stands by its own deals. Because think about it. Can a president just tear up an agreement he once celebrated with zero consequences? If that's true, then every deal the US signs suddenly means less. And when a G7 leader says the old relationship is over, that's not normal politics. That's a major shift. So what actually triggered all this? February 24th, 2026, early morning, no press conference, no warning to Congress, no official announcement, just a post. At 6:15 a.m., Trump goes on Truth Social and says Canada will face a 35% tariff on all goods, not 25%, 35, and it kicks in fast, just 14 days. Unless Canada agrees to a list of demands that insiders say were designed to pressure, even humiliate. No build-up, no diplomacy, just one message. And suddenly everything changed. This isn't just another headline. This is a real-time economic and political showdown. And when Canada's Prime Minister responds the way Carney did, this is only the beginning. Something huge just exploded in North America's economy, and this didn't happen overnight. Tension between Washington and Canada had been building for months. It started back in December 2025 when Donald Trump kept floating one idea again and again. Canada should become the 51st state. At first, people laughed it off. Then it got serious. Behind the scenes, Trump's team was pressuring Canadian officials to stop pushing back publicly. By mid-January, things were already getting tense fast. Then came February 17th, 2026. A senior White House advisor held a private off-the-record briefing with journalists, and what was said there changed everything. Reports from major outlets revealed the real strategy. This wasn't just about trade, it was about pressure, even punishment, because Canada wasn't playing along. Within 48 hours, details of that meeting leaked in Ottawa. And the language explosive, this wasn't about economics anymore, it was about control. And Mark Carney understood that immediately. Now, here's where things get intense. On February 19th, Carney's team went into full crisis mode. They held a closed-door session that lasted nearly 6 hours. Not a casual meeting, a full-scale strategy war game. Top officials were there, finance leaders, central bank figures, trade experts, and then even former global financial insiders who had worked with Carney before. This wasn't panic, this was preparation. They already had a plan. Then February 24th hits. Minutes after Trump's tariff post goes live. Carney's team is already moving. His chief of staff calls him. He's awake, ready. The message, this is exactly what we expected. Within an hour, emergency cabinet call, and they agree on one thing. The response must be fast, it must be strong, and it must send a message to the entire world, not just Washington. Then things move even faster. By 7:45 a.m., legal action is already being drafted under the USMCA. By 9 a.m., Canada's embassy is calling U.S. senators in key states, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, warning them this will hit your economy too. And those calls, detailed, strategic, impossible to ignore. Now here's the moment everything shifts. 11 a.m., Ottawa. Carney walks up to the podium. No script, no notes, calm, focused, like he's been waiting for this. And then he says it. The United States has issued an ultimatum. We do not accept ultimatums. Silence. Canada is not a client state. We are a sovereign nation. That line hit hard. He didn't stop there. He reminded everyone Canada is a NATO member, a treaty partner, and one of the biggest economic relationships the U.S. has. Then came the real warning. Canada would begin reviewing exports of critical minerals to the United States. That's not just politics, that's leverage. And in that moment, this stopped being a trade dispute and became a full blown economic showdown. Now things get serious. Mark Carney doesn't just talk, he acts. Canada announces three major moves. First, control over critical minerals. We're talking cobalt, lithium, rare earths, the stuff the US needs for defense and tech. Second, 35% tariffs on American goods, straight retaliation. Third, legal action under USMCA. This fight is going international. Then Carney pauses, looks up, and delivers the line that changed everything. Threatening Canada has consequences. That one sentence, it hit Washington instantly. Markets reacted within minutes. US automakers dropped, energy stocks slid, the S&P 500 sank fast. This wasn't just politics anymore. This was economic impact, real, immediate, measurable. And here's the thing. This kind of move, it's backfired before. Back in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan took on Japan with trade pressure. It didn't end with dominance, it ended with negotiation after damage was already done. Then in 2002, George W. Bush imposed steel tariffs. What happened? Allies hit back hard, targeted U.S. industries, created political pressure. Within 19 months, the tariffs were gone, and the World Trade Organization ruled against the U.S. Lesson learned. Allies don't just fold, but this time it's different. Donald Trump didn't just use tariffs for economics. This looks political, pressure, leverage, control. And here's the twist. The same trade deal Trump once celebrated is now being used against him. Legal experts say this move could directly violate the agreement, which means this isn't just a dispute, it's a legal battle. And once that process starts, no president can just shut it down with a post. These cases follow rules, timelines, international oversight, and that's exactly why Canada triggered it, because now this fight isn't just between two countries anymore. It's on the global stage. And what happens next could lock in consequences that last far beyond this presidency. Now, here's the real problem. This puts Donald Trump in a corner. There's no easy way out. If the US backs down, removes the tariffs, or starts negotiating, it looks like the ultimatum failed. That hits his image of strength. But if he pushes forward, the consequences stack up fast. Canada hits back with tariffs, limits key mineral exports, and drags this into a long legal fight under USMCA. That process alone could take over a year. And during that time, businesses freeze, investments slow, supply chains get shaky, there's no clean exit here, and it raises a serious question. Did Trump's team not see this coming, or did they see it and go ahead anyway? Because both options are concerning. Now experts are calling this a turning point. Even analysts in Canada are saying the response from Mark Carney was faster and smarter than Washington expected. One move changed everything: control over critical minerals. Because now it's not just automakers feeling the pressure, it's US defense companies. And when that happens, Washington listens. Even voices on the American right are raising alarms. The Wall Street Journal called this a self-inflicted wound. That's a big deal. So what does this actually mean? First, Americans will feel it soon. Within 30 to 60 days, prices could start rising. Canada supplies huge amounts of everyday goods to the US: lumber, dairy, steel, energy. And here's the strategic part. Canada's tariffs are targeting key political states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin. This isn't random, it's precise. Second, defense and tech risks. Canada is a major source of cobalt and lithium. These are critical for EV batteries and military systems. Even reviewing exports, not cutting them yet, creates uncertainty. And that's enough to worry major companies like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Raytheon. Behind the scenes, lobbying has already started. Both political parties are being pressured to act. And that tells you how serious this is. Third, and this is the long game, this could set a precedent. because once a treaty fight like this begins, it doesn't just affect today, it shapes what future presidents can and can't do. And that's where this story goes from a trade dispute to something much bigger. Now, here's where this gets even bigger. If the USMCA panel rules against the US, and many experts think it will, that decision doesn't just end this fight. It sets a rule for the future. It limits how the US can use tariffs going forward. So this isn't just about today, it's about every administration that comes next. And at the core of all this is one question: does the United States still honor its agreements? Because USMCA isn't just a deal, it was approved by Congress, signed into law, legally binding. If a president acts against it, that sends a message to the entire world. U.S. agreements might not mean what they say, and that's causing real concern even inside Washington. Behind closed doors, lawmakers from both parties are asking tough questions. What's the legal basis for these tariffs? So far, no clear answers. At the same time, U.S. industries are split. Some support the tariffs, others are worried. The American Farm Bureau Federation called the situation alarming. And that word matters because Canada is a major buyer of U.S. agriculture. If that relationship breaks down, farmers feel it fast. Now, here's another key moment. Later that same day, Donald Trump fires back online. He calls Mark Carney's response weak, says Canada is bluffing, claims they'll come back to negotiate within 72 hours. But Carney, he says nothing, no response, because he doesn't need to. The market's already reacted, and that reaction spoke louder than words. Legal experts quickly pointed something out. If your response is to attack the person, and ignore the argument, you haven't solved the problem, you've exposed it. And now this goes way beyond trade. This is about power, about limits, about whether a president can ignore a treaty and face no consequences. Because if that happens, then every agreement the US signs becomes uncertain. Trade deals, security deals, all of it. And the message to the world is simple: nothing is guaranteed. That's not just risky, that's a fundamental shift. So where does things stand right now? Canada has officially launched a legal challenge. Critical mineral exports are under review. In this situation, it's still unfolding. Here's where things stand right now. Canada has already hit back. 35% tariffs on American goods, they're live. And the legal fight under USMCA is officially underway. There's a 30-day consultation window first, so no final ruling until at least mid-spring. But behind the scenes, pressure is building. Republican lawmakers from key states are quietly talking to the White House, trying to reduce the tariffs before the damage gets out of control. Meanwhile, Mark Carney is preparing his next move, March 3rd, Canadian Parliament. And insiders say more action is coming. This isn't staying local either. The European Union is backing Canada's legal stance. Countries like Japan and South Korea are watching closely. Why? Because they have similar trade deals with the US. What happens here could affect them next. Now watch three things carefully. March 3rd, Carney's speech, what's happening inside Congress, and Canada's move on critical minerals. Because if Canada goes from review to actually cutting off exports, U.S. defense companies will react immediately. And that pressure will hit Washington fast. So zoom out for a second. Donald Trump issued an ultimatum. Canada responded faster, smarter, and more precise than expected. Markets are already reacting. The legal battle has started. And the bigger impact that's still unfolding. This isn't just another headline. This is a turning point. What happens in the next 30 to 60 days could decide, can this relationship be repaired, or does this permanently reshape North America's economy and security? Because the real issue isn't just tariffs, it's this. Can a president ignore a treaty and face no consequences? That answer won't just affect today. It will define what U.S. agreements mean for years to come. The challenge has been filed. The tariffs are active. Now all eyes are on what happens next because the stakes, they've never been higher.